Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Liberty, watching the stars through the main screen. His ship was old, very old. 30 years had passed since the Liberty first flew among the stars. The big bosses back on Earth called her outdated. They said she was too slow, too weak and not worth fixing. While the new ships got shiny weapons and fresh crews, Morrison's Liberty stayed far from home. She patrolled the empty spaces between star systems. Her crew was small and strange. Most were soldiers who had made mistakes or asked too many questions. The fleet didn't want them on the important ships. Morrison liked his crew, though. Lisa Hayes was his second in command. She was smart, really smart. The fleet had passed her over for promotion 3 times. They didn't like that she questioned orders and spoke her mind. But Morrison knew she was the best tactical officer he had ever seen. Down in the engine room, Pete Collins worked magic every day. The old fusion reactors should have died years ago, but Pete kept them running with spare parts and clever tricks. He talked to the machines like they were old friends. Sometimes Morrison thought Pete understood the ship better than anyone. Amy Parker sat at the communication station. She had a gift for languages, especially alien ones. She spent hours listening to strange signals from deep space. The main fleet ignored her reports. They said the signals were just background noise, nothing important. But Amy knew better. She could hear patterns in the alien chatter that others missed. For months, the Liberty had been sending reports to Earth Command. Strange ships were moving in the outer systems. Alien fleets were gathering near the edge of known space. Each report was filed away and forgotten. The commanders on Earth had bigger things to worry about. Morrison's crew had learned to expect nothing from headquarters. Their requests for new equipment were denied. Their tactical ideas were ignored. The fleet treated them like they didn't exist. But the crew of the Liberty kept doing their job. They watched the darkness between stars and waited. The day everything changed started like any other. Morrison was drinking coffee in his ready room when the alarms began to sound. Amy's voice came over the speakers, tight with fear. "Captain, we're getting a priority signal from Earth. It's an automated distress beacon." Morrison ran to the bridge. The main screen showed a message that made his blood run cold. Earth was under attack. Massive alien fleets had appeared from nowhere, striking at human colonies across the galaxy. The enemy was called the Zephyrian Hegemony, and they had more ships than anyone had ever seen. "Where's our main fleet?" Morrison asked. "Scattered across 12 systems," Lisa replied, reading the tactical reports. "They're trying to regroup, but the aliens hit us everywhere at once. It's a coordinated attack." Morrison looked at the star charts. The Liberty was 500 light-years from Earth. Even at maximum speed, they would take weeks to reach the main battle. By then, it would all be over. "Sir?" Amy called from her station. "I'm detecting massive energy signatures in the Kepler sector. It's the largest fleet I've ever seen." The main screen changed to show long-range sensor readings. Morrison felt his heart sink. Hundreds of alien ships were moving through space in perfect formation. They were heading straight for the human colonies in the inner systems. Pete's voice came from the engine room. "Captain, I'm reading their power signatures. These ships are big, bigger than our dreadnoughts, and there are so many of them." Lisa studied the tactical display. Her face was pale but determined. "They're using quantum communication links to coordinate their movements. Perfect synchronization across the entire fleet. I've never seen anything like it." Morrison made a decision that would change everything. Instead of running back to Earth, he ordered the Liberty to shadow the alien fleet. They would stay hidden and gather intelligence. Maybe they could find some weakness to exploit. "Amy, I want you to monitor all alien communications, every frequency, every signal. Lisa, start analyzing their formation and tactics. Pete, keep us hidden, but ready to run if they spot us." The crew worked through the night as the Liberty followed the massive alien armada. Amy recorded hundreds of communication bursts. Lisa mapped the enemy formation and studied their movement patterns. Pete kept the old ship's stealth systems running at maximum power. As hours passed, more reports came from human space. Colony after colony was falling to the Zephyrian advance. The human fleet was fighting bravely but losing badly. The aliens had superior numbers, better weapons, and perfect coordination. Morrison walked the corridors of his old ship, thinking hard. The Liberty couldn't win a straight fight against even one alien cruiser, let alone an entire fleet. But maybe they didn't need to fight fair. Maybe there was another way. He found Lisa in the tactical center, surrounded by holographic displays showing alien ship patterns. She looked up as he entered. "I think I've found something, Captain," she said quietly. "These quantum communication links that coordinate their fleet. They might be more vulnerable than they appear." Morrison leaned over the display. "What do you mean?" "All their ships are connected through quantum entanglement. It makes them incredibly efficient, but it also creates a single point of failure. If we could disrupt the network, the entire fleet would lose coordination," Morrison finished. "But how do we do that? We don't have weapons that can affect quantum frequencies." Lisa smiled for the first time in days. "Actually, sir, we might. Remember that old electromagnetic pulse cannon we got during the last refit? The one that never worked properly?" Morrison remembered. The weapon had been installed and then forgotten when the fleet changed priorities. It sat in the Liberty's weapons bay, unused and unnoticed. "Amy's been studying the alien communication protocols," Lisa continued. "She thinks she can modify the pulse cannon to target their specific quantum frequencies. It's a long shot, but it might work." Outside the ship, the alien fleet continued its advance toward human space. Inside the Liberty, a desperate plan began to take shape. The forgotten warship and her misfit crew were about to attempt something that would either save humanity or destroy them all. The emergency meeting took place in the Liberty's small conference room. Morrison sat at the head of the table while Lisa spread out technical drawings and star charts. Amy had her communication equipment scattered across one corner, and Pete had brought up holographic displays of the ship's weapon systems. "Tell me about this plan," Morrison said, looking at his officers. Lisa pointed to the electromagnetic pulse cannon on the ship's blueprint. "This weapon was designed to disable enemy electronics, but Amy and I think we can modify it to do something much more dangerous." Amy leaned forward, excitement in her voice. "Captain, I've been listening to the alien communications for hours. Every ship in their fleet is connected through quantum links. They share information instantly across hundreds of ships. That's how they coordinate so perfectly." "But quantum networks are supposed to be unbreakable," Morrison said. "That's what everyone thinks," Lisa replied. But Amy discovered something important. The Zephyrian quantum system uses a specific frequency pattern. If we can generate an electromagnetic pulse on that exact frequency, we might be able to break their network. Pete scratched his head. "The pulse cannon isn't designed for quantum frequencies. We'd have to change everything about how it works." "Can it be done?" Morrison asked. Pete was quiet for a moment, thinking. "Maybe. I'd have to reroute. Power from all over the ship. Life support, artificial gravity, even the engines. And I can't guarantee the cannon won't explode when we fire it." Morrison looked at the star chart showing the alien fleet's position. "How close would we need to get?" "Very close," Lisa said. "The quantum pulse needs to reach every ship in their formation. We'd have to penetrate deep into their fleet, probably within a few thousand kilometers of their command ship." "That's suicide," Morrison said flatly. "They'd detect us long before we got that close," Amy spoke up. "Not necessarily, sir. I've been studying their sensor patterns. They use active scanning, very powerful but focused. If we approach through the asteroid field in the Kepler sector, we might be able to hide among the rocks." Morrison studied the tactical display. The alien fleet was positioned near a dense asteroid field, probably using it as cover while they organized their attack on human colonies. The Liberty could potentially slip through the asteroids undetected, but it would be incredibly dangerous. "Even if we succeed," Morrison said, "what happens to us? Once we fire that weapon, every alien ship will know exactly where we are." The room fell silent. Everyone understood what that meant. The Liberty was one ship against hundreds. Even if they disabled the alien coordination network, they probably wouldn't survive the counterattack. Reports continued to stream in from human space. The colony on New Geneva had fallen. The mining stations around Alpha Centauri were under heavy attack. Earth's main defense fleet was scattered and outgunned. Humanity was losing the war. Morrison made his decision. Do it. Pete, start modifying the pulse cannon. Amy, I want continuous monitoring of alien communications. Lisa, plot us a course through that asteroid field. The next 12 hours were the longest of their lives. Pete worked without rest in the engineering section, tearing apart power conduits and rerouting energy flows. The ship's lights dimmed as he diverted power to the weapon systems. Artificial gravity fluctuated, making everyone feel sick and disoriented. Amy sat at her station, headphones on, listening to alien chatter. She had identified 7 different types of quantum communication bursts. The command signals came from the largest ship in the formation, a massive dreadnought that coordinated the entire fleet. I'm getting clearer readings on their command protocols, Amy reported. The quantum bursts happen every 30 seconds. If we time our pulse to coincide with one of their transmissions, we might be able to follow their signal directly into the network core. Lisa worked on navigation, plotting a path through the asteroid field that would bring them close to the alien formation without being detected. She had to account for the Liberty's reduced power output and the gravitational effects of dozens of large asteroids. Pete's voice came over the intercom from engineering. Captain, I've got good news and bad news. The good news is I think I can modify the pulse cannon to generate quantum frequencies. The bad news is the power requirements are enormous. We'll have to shut down everything except basic life support. Define basic, Morrison said. Minimal oxygen recycling, emergency lighting, and just enough power to keep the hull integrity fields running. No artificial gravity, no main engines, no defensive systems. We'll be completely helpless after we fire the weapon. Morrison walked to the main view screen, looking out at the alien fleet in the distance. Hundreds of ships moved in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with advanced technology. Each one was larger and more powerful than the Liberty. How long will the modifications take, he asked. 6 more hours, if nothing goes wrong. Pete replied. Morrison turned to his crew. All right, people. We have 6 hours to prepare for what might be humanity's last hope. Amy, I want you to identify the exact moment when their command ship will be transmitting. Lisa, finalize our approach vector. Pete, do whatever it takes to make that weapon work. As his officers returned to their stations, Morrison remained on the bridge staring at the enemy fleet. The Liberty had always been ignored, forgotten, treated like an old relic. But today, this forgotten ship and her misfit crew were about to attempt something that could save the entire human race. The asteroid field lay ahead, dark and dangerous. Beyond it waited the most powerful alien armada anyone had ever seen. The Liberty's crew worked desperately to prepare for a mission that would either turn the tide of war or destroy them all in the attempt. Time was running out. Human colonies continued to fall while the Zephyrian fleet prepared for their final assault on Earth itself. Everything now depended on an old ship that nobody remembered, and a plan that might not work. Morrison closed his eyes and tried not to think about the odds against them. The Liberty drifted through the asteroid field like a ghost ship. Her engines were silent, her lights dimmed to almost nothing. Only the faint glow of emergency systems showed that anyone was still alive inside her metal hull. Morrison stood on the bridge, holding onto a support rail. Without artificial gravity, everyone floated in the air. His crew had strapped themselves into their seats to keep working at their stations. The ship felt cold and empty, but they were closer to the alien fleet than any human had ever been. Distance to target formation? Morrison whispered. Even small sounds seemed dangerous now. 12,000 kilometers, Lisa replied quietly, checking her floating display screen. We're inside their outer sensor range, but the asteroids are hiding us. Amy pressed her headphones closer to her ears. I'm picking up heavy communication. Traffic. They're coordinating an attack on the Mars colonies. Captain, they plan to hit Earth in 36 hours. The thought made Morrison's stomach turn. Earth, humanity's homeworld, would be defenseless against this massive fleet. He looked through the view screen at the alien ships surrounding them. They were beautiful in a terrible way, sleek and deadly, their hulls covered in weapons that could destroy planets. Pete's voice came through the comm system, barely louder than a whisper. Pulse cannon is ready, Captain, but I need to warn you again. When we fire this thing, the power surge might tear the ship apart. How long until we reach the optimal firing position? Morrison asked Lisa. She calculated quickly on her portable computer. 43 minutes. We need to get within 5,000 kilometers of their command ship for maximum effect. Morrison nodded. The massive alien dreadnought hung in space ahead of them, easily 10 times larger than the Liberty. It was surrounded by smaller warships in a protective formation. Getting close enough to fire would require threading through dozens of enemy vessels. Amy, what's the status on their quantum communications? Very active, sir. The command ship is sending coordination bursts every 28 seconds. The next major transmission cycle will begin in 39 minutes. That's our window. Morrison did the math in his head. They would reach firing position just as the alien command ship began its next communication cycle. If Amy was right, they could ride their quantum pulse directly into the enemy network during the transmission. The Liberty continued her slow drift through the asteroid field. Several times they passed close to alien patrol ships, but the enemy sensors seemed focused outward, watching for threats from human space. They never looked inward at the asteroids. Lisa guided the ship past a massive rotating rock that was the size of a small moon. On the other side, the alien command ship loomed directly ahead. It was magnificent and terrifying, bristling with weapons and covered in sensor arrays that could detect a pin drop on a distant planet. How are they not seeing us, Morrison wondered. The asteroids contain a lot of metal ore, Amy explained. It's interfering with their sensors. Plus, I don't think they expect anyone to be stupid enough to fly directly into their formation. Worked frantically in the engineering section, making final adjustments to the pulse cannon. The weapon had never been designed for this kind of modification. Cables and power conduits were strung throughout the ship like a spider web. One mistake could electrocute the entire crew. 10 minutes to firing position, Lisa announced. Morrison activated the ship-wide communication system. This is the captain. In 10 minutes, we're going to attempt something that has never been tried before. Our success could save Earth and every human colony. Our failure means we all die together. Either way, I'm proud to serve with each of you. The crew remained focused on their tasks. Amy monitored alien communications, watching for any sign they had been detected. Lisa carefully adjusted their course to avoid the largest enemy ships. Pete ran final checks on the pulse cannon, praying it would work when they needed it. 5 minutes, Lisa called out. Morrison could see individual details on the alien ships now. Their hulls were covered in strange symbols and patterns that probably meant something important to the Zephyrian culture. Gun ports lined their sides like rows of dark eyes. Each ship could destroy the Liberty with a single shot. 2 minutes. Amy, is the command ship still on schedule for its transmission? Yes, sir. Major quantum burst in 90 seconds. All fleet. Coordination will be routed through their primary communication array. Morrison strapped himself into his command chair. Pete, charge the pulse cannon. Deep in the ship's hull, the modified weapon began to build power. Energy flowed from every system into the cannon's focusing chamber. The Liberty's lights went out completely. Life support shut down. Even emergency power was diverted to the weapon. 1 minute to firing position, Lisa said. 30 seconds to alien transmission. The command ship filled their view screen now. It was close enough that Morrison could see tiny figures moving behind transparent sections of the hull. Alien crew members going about their duties, unaware that a human ship was preparing to fire on them. Amy, lock onto their quantum frequency. Locked. On, sir. I'm reading their transmission build-up now. Pete, weapon status. Charged and ready, Captain. Firing on your command. Morrison watched the seconds count down. The Liberty hung in space just 5,000 kilometers from the alien command ship. Around them, hundreds of enemy vessels continued their perfect formations, trusting their quantum network to keep them coordinated. Alien transmission beginning now, Amy reported. Morrison took a deep breath. Fire. The pulse cannon discharged with a flash of light that could be seen across the entire star system. Electromagnetic energy raced outward at the speed of light. carrying quantum frequencies that human science had never before produced. The beam struck the alien command ship just as it was broadcasting coordination signals to the entire fleet. The effect was instant and devastating. Quantum links severed simultaneously across hundreds of ships. The perfect alien formation dissolved into chaos as individual vessels lost contact with their command structure. Ships that had moved as one mind suddenly became confused and isolated. Morrison watched in amazement as alien vessels began firing on each other, unable to distinguish friend from foe without their network guidance. The most powerful fleet in known history was tearing itself apart. But the Liberty paid a heavy price for her victory. The pulse cannon's discharge overloaded every system on the ship. Power failed completely. The hull groaned under stress as structural supports failed. They were dead in space, surrounded by angry aliens who now knew exactly where they were. The Liberty floated helplessly in the middle of the alien fleet, her power systems completely dead. Morrison could feel the ship's hull creaking and groaning around them. Emergency lights flickered weakly in the darkness. The air was getting thin as life support systems struggled to function. But outside their crippled ship, something amazing was happening. The alien fleet was destroying itself. Without their quantum communication network, the Zephyrian ships had lost all coordination. They fired wildly at anything that moved, unable to tell friends from enemies. "My God," Lisa whispered, staring at her portable scanner. "They're shooting each other." Massive alien dreadnoughts turned their weapons on their own escort vessels. Smaller ships fled in panic, only to run straight into the guns of their former allies. The perfect formation that had threatened all of human space was now a swirling mass of confusion and destruction. Amy monitored the chaos through her emergency communication equipment. "Captain, I'm picking up distress signals from all over their fleet. They're completely lost without their network." Pete's voice echoed from the engine room, weak but determined. "I've got auxiliary power coming back online. Give me 10 more minutes and I can restart the main reactor." Morrison nodded, though Pete couldn't see him in the darkness. They needed power desperately. Sooner or later, some alien captain would realize that the Liberty was responsible for the chaos. When that happened, every surviving enemy ship would target them. The bridge crew watched in amazement as two alien cruisers collided while trying to escape the battle zone. The explosion lit up space for thousands of kilometers. Debris from destroyed ships drifted everywhere, creating even more confusion for the remaining vessels. "Sir," Amy said suddenly, "I'm detecting human ships approaching from the inner system. It's Admiral Kate Sullivan's task force." Morrison felt hope rising in his chest. Admiral Sullivan commanded the Third Fleet, humanity's largest remaining battle group. If she was here, it meant Earth Command had finally realized what was happening in the Kepler sector. The human ships arrived like cavalry charging to the rescue. Admiral Sullivan's flagship, a massive battlecruiser called the Washington, led 12 other warships into the battle zone. They opened fire immediately on the scattered alien vessels. The fight that followed was hardly a fight at all. Without their coordination network, the alien ships were easy targets for the organized human fleet. Admiral Sullivan's forces moved in perfect formation, systematically hunting down and destroying the confused enemy vessels. Morrison tried to contact the Admiral, but their communication systems were still dead. He could only watch as the tide of battle turned completely in humanity's favor. Ships that had seemed invincible just hours ago were now burning wrecks drifting through space. "Got it," Pete shouted from engineering. "Main power is back online." Lights returned to the Liberty's bridge. The air recycling systems hummed back to life. Morrison took his first deep breath in what felt like hours. His ship was wounded, but alive. "Amy, open a channel to Admiral Sullivan's flagship." The main view screen flickered and showed the bridge of the Washington. Admiral Sullivan looked tired but relieved. She was a veteran officer with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Captain Morrison," she said. "What the hell did you do out here?" Morrison smiled for the first time in days. "We found their weakness, Admiral. Their quantum communication network was the key to everything. Once we disrupted it, they lost all coordination." "How did you manage to get close enough to attack their command ship?" "We didn't attack it directly, ma'am. We modified our electromagnetic pulse cannon to target quantum frequencies. When their command ship transmitted orders to the fleet, we sent our pulse along the same quantum pathway. Admiral Sullivan looked impressed. Brilliant. Who came up with that idea? Morrison glanced at Lisa, who was still floating near her station. My executive officer, Lieutenant Commander Lisa Hayes. She figured out how their network operated and found a way to exploit it. I want a full technical report as soon as possible, Captain. This tactical innovation could change everything. Over the next 6 hours, Admiral Sullivan's task force finished cleaning up the alien fleet. Most enemy ships were destroyed or disabled. The few that survived fled toward the edge of the system, probably carrying news of their defeat back to Zephyrian space. Morrison received a priority message from Earth while Pete worked to repair the Liberty's damaged systems. Fleet Admiral Tony Rodriguez appeared on the screen, speaking directly from Earth Command Headquarters. Captain Morrison, your actions today saved not just the colonies but possibly all of human civilization. The Zephyrian main fleet was preparing to attack Earth itself. If they had maintained their coordination, our defenses would have been useless. Morrison felt overwhelmed by the praise. Thank you, sir. But this was a team effort. My entire crew deserves recognition. They'll get it. Captain, I'm promoting you to Admiral effective immediately. You'll command the new Outer Rim Defense Squadron. We're also giving the Liberty a complete refit with the best technology we have. Morrison couldn't believe what he was hearing. The forgotten ship and her misfit crew were suddenly the most important people in the fleet. Lisa would finally get the promotion she deserved. Pete would have unlimited resources to upgrade the Liberty's systems. Amy's communication skills would be valued instead of ignored. But more importantly, the electromagnetic pulse technique they had developed would be installed on every human warship. The tactical advantage that had made the Zephyrian fleet so dangerous was now humanity's weapon to use. Admiral Sullivan's voice came over the communication system. Morrison, I'm sending engineering teams to help repair your ship. You've earned a hero's welcome when you get back to Earth. As the human fleet prepared to return to the inner colonies, Morrison walked through the corridors of his old ship. The Liberty looked the same as always, but everything had changed. The crew members he passed stood a little taller now. They had accomplished something that would be remembered for generations. 3 months later, the Zephyrian hegemony officially surrendered to the human fleet. Without their quantum coordination advantage, their forces were no match for human tactics and determination. The war that could have destroyed humanity ended with complete victory. Morrison kept his promise to never forget the Liberty's crew. Lisa became his second in command of the defense squadron. Pete led the engineering team that upgraded every human warship with quantum pulse weapons. Amy established the new alien communication monitoring center that would prevent future surprise attacks. The USS Liberty received her new technology and returned to patrol the Outer Rim, but she was no longer forgotten or ignored. She carried the crew that had saved humanity, and everyone in the fleet knew their names. Years later, when people told the story of humanity's first interstellar war, they always mentioned the old ship that nobody remembered. The Liberty had proven that victory doesn't always go to the biggest or newest vessel. Sometimes it goes to the crew brave enough to try something impossible when everything else has failed.